Greetings and salutations, and welcome to this episode of Playwright Spotlight. This is a very different episode than usual. We're reaching into the vaults of Playwright Spotlight. I originally recorded this episode with Brynn Thayer back in February of 2023. Unfortunately, after resetting the recording software, it reset everything to default, and no sound was recorded until about 6 minutes in which I finally hit record on the Rodecaster that we record audio on. So we were able to save majority of the episode, but we lost about the first 6 minutes. I've tried to reach out to Brynn a few times, but with her busy schedule, she has not been able to come back in and record, but it's still my goal to get her in after seeing the play that we talk about in this episode. I find that it's still very insightful. We'll lose the first 6 minutes, so I apologize about that. But I think you'll get some really great information from everything that she has to offer. Again, I'd love to bring her back in sometime down the road to discuss her play after having seen it. It was very intriguing and a little heartbreaking. And her approach to that play, I would really love to delve into. But on that note, Brynn Thayer has been working in the industry since the 1970s. She's been nominated for a Daytime Emmy and wrote and performed her one-woman show, The Eulogy, which the Los Angeles Times called sardonic, funny, and accessible. She directed, wrote, and produced the Worst Days series of short films with her partner Shahab Rudbari, which toured the festival circuit and won many awards. Her most recent play, Let Me In, played to sold-out crowds at Theater 68 North Hollywood. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy this episode of Playwright Spotlight with Brynn Thayer. And on that note, before we get into it, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and share this channel with a friend. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, please welcome to this vaulted episode of Playwright Spotlight with Brynn Thayer.
Oh, many other things he taught me, but to keep it moving. And I love to keep it moving. Anything that I write, I like to tell a story and have, I don't do a lot of 3 sentences at a time. I don't dwell on something a long time. I think it's my attention span. I don't have, a long attention span. I wanted to make this play, Let Me In, a 90-minute play that didn't have an intermission, because I don't like intermissions anymore. I want to tell the story. I want to hear the story. I want to feel the story in an hour and a half.
Are these your preferences, or are these just things that you've kind of picked up as you've been writing? It's like no intermission. Let's get to the point. Are they things that you've picked up in your background, in your career throughout, the years? Like, oh, got to hurry up and get to commercial break. Is it a combination of all those things?
I think so. I started out on a soap opera. We told a different story every day, except, each character had their own stories. So I grew up on the soap opera doing quick storylines. They could last 3 years, but you told a story with each scene you did to further the story. So, each scene was 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and you had to get a lot in, especially if you had a great writer who could do that in 5 minutes.
What are there specific things that you learned being in the soap opera that when it came to writing, how to be efficient, maybe what not to do? I mean, is there anything you can remember specifically? This is, which I'm sure since you're a fan of the podcast, that there's always on the spot questions that kind of come out that when you're not in front of the screen writing, it's kind of hard to remember exactly what little things you might remember, or might come into play when you're writing, since you're not writing right now. Is there anything that you can think of offhand? Character
is, that's why I was drawn to being a fan of soap operas in my early life. I loved the characters. I loved, you got to know them. You had your favorites, you had your villains. I mean, it was very basic. But the people that they the actors that they cast, the casting director in those days and every day, not now, they're so important. And if you get a great cast to go along with your great story, you've got gold.
How does, because you're in soap operas, you're dealing with characters over the span of 12 years sometimes. So how do you condense that into a play of 90 minutes?
Well, I didn't put my whole life in.
Fair enough.
I chose an incident that happened to me while I was on the soap opera, actually. My closest friend, who was also my roommate, died in a car accident.
Sorry.
Thank you. And, I'm fascinated. I've always been fascinated with death and how we all deal with it in different ways. And there's so many ways to cope with it, so many ways to deny it. But all of us have to end up dealing with death of loved ones throughout our lives, and then we all die together. Not together, but we all die at some point, and it's that thing that bonds us all, because we're doing the same thing at some point in our life.
How did you apply character into this piece then? What did you draw upon, if anything? Or have you learned to approach character in different ways? Does the soap opera character translate differently into playwriting? What do you take into a play and then leave, on the sideline if you're applying any of that? I mean, you may not apply any soap opera aspects to it. I'm just curious.
Well, I think in this particular piece, it's a 3-character play, and I think each character is a piece of me and how I dealt with the death. It's a dark comedy. I think it's as dark as it is funny. And that's the way I think death has been for me.
I'm not even sure how to approach that.
Gotta laugh while we're going through this.
Ain't it the truth? So I'm going to go off on a limb here and assume that the eulogy has a little bit to do with death as well. So, and feel free to get as personal as you want to, and I won't pry by any means if you're willing to tell any stories by any means that go along with these. Please do. But so let's go to the approach of a one-woman show, and then kind of the springboarding into diving into a full length.
I was in a wonderful acting class, Beverly Hills Playhouse. Milton Katselis was the teacher, remarkable teacher. One of our assignments that he would give to different actors was write a monologue. And all of us would all go, oh, so he gave me that assignment. I had not written anything, ever. I didn't think that you had the freedom to do that if you weren't a writer. Mm. And I did not consider myself a writer, so I thought, well, how can I write something? I mean, it was such a blocked off way in which I looked at that part of doing something different.
So this is an acting class.
Yes.
But you're being requested to write something.
Yes. So I wrote a monologue called The Eulogy, about my father's eulogy. It was, my father was alive in real life, but I knew that when my father died, it was going to be really hard. So I thought, well, if I do a eulogy about him before he dies, maybe that will cushion me. So I made the audience the members of the funeral. And I got up on stage and did a funny eulogy and called people out who were in my dad's life who I did not care for. And I thought that they were, why were they here? And I'd ask them to leave, and I'd talk about my dad's accomplishments, and I'd talk about my dad's failures and faults. And it turned out very well. So when you're an actor, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes. So you get a critique after.
Or a lot.
Yes, you get a critique and sit down in front of the class. And he said, "So who wrote this? I asked you to write it."
Wow.
So I said, "Well, I did," and I was stunned that he asked me that. So he said, "You're a writer, so you need to write." So that is what, started me on the adventure. I went slow, but somebody validated me being a writer. And, I went to acting, I was in the right place at the right time. I did not get hired on the soap opera for my acting ability. I got hired because I looked like the girl they were replacing. And they did that a lot in soap operas at the time. I think they still probably do it now. So the actors on the soap opera really were my teachers. They taught me how to act. And then the same thing, so I went into it, in a backdoor sort of way. So I feel like I did the same thing with writing. I was not a writer, and then somebody validated me and said, "Yes, you are."
So 2 questions I have for that. How long after, or was this during your playwriting stint? Or not playwriting, your soap opera stint that you went into this writing class? Or is this way...
Oh, this was...
how much time had passed?
Yeah, probably. Well, I was on the soap for 8 years. Then I moved out here to California, and I probably got into that class maybe 2 years after I was here. Stayed in that acting class with all these fabulous actors. We had such a great experience, and then that's when I started writing very small things. Then time went on, and a guy that was in another writing class, another acting class, I asked him if he wanted to do a short film with me. Didn't know him very well, but I knew he had this great energy, Shahab Rubari.
That's about my next question.
And yeah, and he and I, I wrote the first day one, and we filmed it together, and then we did 2 and 3, and we took it out to the festivals. And got some good, good awards with it, and got recognized again. So again, I guess I need validation. Again, I was validated.
And that's the second question I was going to ask. Do you think validation is necessary to pursue something?
Oh, I wish I could say no, but for me...
It could be subjective. I don't...
Yeah, for me, I think it is. I think... I guess I wanted to know that it was okay for me to write. And so I had to... the same with acting. It took me a while to figure out that I was an okay actor.
All right. It's interesting you bring this up. I just returned from Sacramento from a theater festival. It's called Lene. It's been going on for over 60 years, and it's interesting, and then if it's part of a workshop that I do, a playwriting workshop, the one thing that I have to really impress upon the kids is how accessible it is for them nowadays. Well, especially for writing, because writing is the one thing you don't need anybody else to,
be present for.
Yeah, exactly, or to accomplish. But even with that being said, it's like there's no gatekeeper anymore. Quit waiting for somebody else to give you permission. That is whether that's producing your play, or even if that's playing that role that you've always wanted to. Mm-hmm. I would ask them, what's a role that you want to do? Then go get the rights. Go get the rights and go rent the theater. It's more expensive, especially with crowdfunding and stuff like that.
Right.
Will any of them do it? I don't know. But I think with that, and I think with playwriting, you can kind of do it on your own. You don't need anybody's permission.
Yes.
To do it. And I don't know if that's more. It's always been the case as far as writing goes, but I think that especially in our industry, we're kind of used to waiting for somebody else to say it's okay.
That's right.
Yeah. And it's kind of a sad thing. And I think that everything's got more or less expensive in order to be able to shoot a short film.
Right.
Or anything like that.
Yeah.
So your monologue, I'm assuming that your one-woman show isn't just your monologue and that you extended or expanded upon it. 'Cause it sounds like if you went in with that monologue that you're supposed to write for your class, what was it when you went into class, and what did it become when you staged it?
Oh, it was so. I certainly expanded on it and made it into, a one-woman show.
Sure.
And it was the first time, besides class, I think, that I'd really been in front of an audience. Mm. And, that felt good.
Sure. Did you play multiple characters in this piece, or did you just play yourself giving this eulogy and then just respond to questions that came forth from those people that were in the audience but really didn't?
Right.
What was?
I got a lot off my chest.
Sure, 100%, absolutely. But you didn't play a character responding to whatever.
No,
okay.
I played just myself.
Okay. Did your dad come see that play?
I did not tell them that I was doing it.
So nobody that was mentioned in this got wind or showed up and that's me.
No, they didn't. I was holding my breath the whole time. I really, I didn't want to do that to my dad. You're writing a play about me dying already? I mean, I felt like I can't do that.
How much of your writing is cathartic?
Oh, I think all of it. I love it now. I so enjoy it. I love feeling that thing, whatever it is, when you get in the zone and you just go and you kind of hear everything the way it's supposed to be said. And it's just the fun of fitting a puzzle together and saying what you want to get off your chest.
Do you think that anybody who writes, any playwrights, this might be an unfair question.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think that playwrights that don't have your background can achieve that success? But I think we all know that, obviously there's plenty of... do you think, let me ask you this then, do you think that your background has helped you in that regard, in regard to playwriting? And I don't mean that from the experiences, because obviously you're learning, being immersed in soap operas and in the writing and working off directors and those writers and that are coming to the table with your pieces. But I mean, I'm talking more as far as, where was I going with that whole thing?
I think there's so many ways in, and everybody has a different process, I live in kind of a, I don't know a lot of writers. I would like to. I know the writers from my class, but I figured out my own way to write a play that I could live in, that was an experience of mine. So I felt like for me to make up something that I had never experienced, I guess that's my next place to go. I've never done that. So it's all, loosely based on what's happened to me because I have the information right here.
What was the timeline from the eulogy until Let Me In?
25 years? 30?
So you wrote it when you were 10. Okay.
Oh, James.
Is this a piece that, had it been brewing, or it was just like an idea that kind of sprung up and I'm like, all right, I know what my next piece is going to be, or better yet, how long after the incident did you decide that you needed to get this off your chest?
In this way, probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I've lived with it, it's grief. You live with it.
Sure.
So I've lived with it for grief. I kept thinking, well, okay, how do I work through the grief? I've held on to it for 40 years. Let's write about it.
So we're talking about an incident that was a while ago. It was.
Yeah. So it was like 78. Okay. And I was 28, 73 now. So, that's, you do the math. I can't even figure it out. It's.
What were you, I don't know if suffering is the right word. Were you still having, because you said it took 2 years, but it's an incident that was 25 years ago. Were there still things that you were still coming to terms with? Or?
I think it's like, like my dad dying or my best friend dying. I'm the type of person that, and other friends that have passed, especially COVID and, different people that have gone to war and old age and all the things that we deal with. I think I live, as I think everybody does to some degree, they live with that stuff. You just figure out how to go through the day and do your day the best you can. But still there's that little bit of, for me, there's that little seed in there that is, oh, damn, I wish she was here. I wish he was here. One more sentence I'd love to say or hear them say to me, or, so I always have them, I feel like I always think about them in my life.
What was the moment that you just said, okay, I need to write about this, and where did it start, and what was the process going through with it? Was this another project, or was this just like, I have an idea, I need to get it down, it's going to be a play? Not having a background, whether that's not a bad thing. I'm just curious of like taking that step and deciding I'm going to write a play.
I love plays. I love dialogue, love characters. After COVID, a new class was started with some old class members, directed by our teacher was Howie Deutsch, wonderful director. He's our teacher, and they were calling around asking people if they would start coming to this class if they were interested in it. And of course, we hadn't, none of us had done anything. I mean, I hadn't done anything during COVID. I just kind of walked around and was in a daze. And I thought, okay, if I start this class, then my goal, I'm going to finish the play, I'm going to cast it, I'm going to produce it, I'm going to direct it, and I'm going to blow it out of the park. I'm 73. What do I have to lose? I can do it. And nobody has to tell me now if I can't. And so that was 1 year ago. And, now we open in 3 weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So what I did
yes.
was in the class. So I thought, well, I'll just use the people in the class to, we'll do scenes from the play to see if it works, to see if it's funny, to see if it's interesting, to see if anybody likes it. So got these 2 wonderful actors, and then another, Jorge Garcia, who, I don't know, he's a wonderful actor on Lost and Hawaii Five-0, great guy. So they became my actors. We did a presentation. I got a group of people who smarter than me in the business and who would tell me the truth, and did a presentation of about 25 pages. Then we all sat down and we thought, and, I said, is this any good? Again, with my validation.
Sure.
Does this work? And, they validated me. So I went forth and I finished the play, and I used those 3 actors. They are in my play, and it was like meant to be.
You said something about your knowing people that were good, or knowing people in the industry. Do you feel it was the people in the industry or people that told you the truth? That was, what was it more? Because they're good, they're great in the industry. That's fine, but would you have, if they would have been anybody else that would have told you the truth, do you think you still would have?
Oh, I think it helps if people that, for me, if people that I ask like to read it or to see this presentation, I had some experience in the business, and were smart. Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel like we're smart, that they would tell me the truth. I hoped.
Yeah.
Because they could lie. I mean, I've done that. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want to squash anybody's creative juices. You want them to just keep going, keep doing it. Well, I wanted, I took a chance, rolled the dice, and I believe them.
Sure. Okay.
So.
Well, again, I think sometimes in this industry, in this day and age as well, that nobody wants to be honest, and
I know,
and it's unfortunate because it's like sometimes I can be a little harsh in my feedback as well, or it's like it's like I don't want to sugarcoat anything.
No,
but I still want to be honest in what you need to work on and where it is, because otherwise you're not doing anybody any good.
Absolutely.
Was this so did you kind of workshop it in this class? How collaborative was it? How much did your 3 actors help you mold this piece?
Well, we really worked on the first 25 pages, or some of the 25 pages. And, once I write something, I found I don't feel that it's precious anymore. And if an actor ad-lib something or add something to it that just makes it better, I'm game. I'm game for that. I want him to say my words, but
Sure.
I also hired them for their talent and their intellect and their sense of humor. And so, and that's what I wanted for those characters in the play. We didn't do a lot of rewriting, but they did, they asked me some key questions that helped me look at it a little bit differently.
Do you know what those questions? Do you remember the questions, and what did they ask that changed your approach? And
I wanted to describe the car accident in a very a back and forth between two of the characters. One of the characters was in the car with the person that died, and one of the characters was the best friend. And so I wanted this back and forth to happen, and like the one person asking the other person questions over and over and over again so that she could get it in her head exactly how the accident happened.
Is it coming from a place of accusation or just trying to understand? Okay.
Yeah.
So and some good conflict in there.
Yeah. And they made me go deeper, or they asked me questions about, well, it was in the 70s. So we didn't have seatbelts then. Mm-hmm. The car was a convertible. I wanted to keep that, and yet I wanted it to be a current happening. Right. So they asked me those kind of things, and they made me, in asking me those questions, well, was there an eyewitness? Did the police come? I was still at that point hedging a little bit. My not getting too dark, but I just I realized I needed to go there.
From a writing perspective or writing standpoint, do you think that you could have gone there and then reeled it in without having to keep that stuff? It's like, even like hypothetically, they were making good points and you maybe didn't want to go that dark, but maybe the necessity of getting it out onto the page was what needed to be done. And then once you got it, it's like, okay, now I can reel it in and get rid of that stuff that might be gratuitous, unnecessary, or personal. Mm-hmm. To where, I guess I would say, would you, at this point, moving forward with what you learned, just go ahead and get it all out, no matter how graphic and personal and vulnerable it makes you, and the subject matter is, that it's just better to get it, and then you can take away what you might feel that needs to be kept in. Mm-hmm. Like, rather than refraining from going there, just do it, go there, and then pull back.
That's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I ended up not pulling it back because I liked it. I mean, I don't know whether it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I guess I needed to do that.
So going back to something you said earlier, you're this is all you, writer. You wrote it, directed, produced it. Do you think that, and I think because of your background and your experience, you can kind of get away with that. Because you've been immersed in it. This whole industry has been ingrained. You've worked enough with directors and writers and other actors where you can kind of pull that off. But I think, there's beginning playwrights that I'm not acting, I'm going to direct. That's what I think that the biggest thing was, when I first moved down here, was a lot of actors like, I'm just going to write and direct. something for myself, and I'm going to showcase myself, and that's really what it is. It's a showcase about them, and they get some, friends, and maybe they cast it, but it's really just a terrible written piece because they're not writers. They came here to act, but that's not their background. They don't have a lot of experience to where they can sit there and pull upon these, moments in their life where they've learned from whatever aspect of the industry that they're practicing.
Yeah, I think my years have helped me. I probably couldn't have done it 25 years ago. I don't think I would have had the balls to do it. But now, I don't care.
Sure. Well, you've directed before, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you've acted before. We already established the writing aspect, and I'm sure you've produced something, correct? Yeah. So I think that you can kind of get into a place where I think I know how to do these things.
Yeah. And it's fun to be the boss.
Sure. Do you find that you spread yourself too thin, or just because you're tackling everything?
I don't, because I am so energized by it. I haven't really ever gotten to, when we did our short films, yes, but something like a lighting design for this show, I have not gotten to do that with our lighting designer, have not gotten to build a set with the set designer, who's it's just so much fun.
Sure.
I'm so energized by it. The sound guy who's just, I wanted people to come and be a part of it who had read the play, who really liked it, who could relate to it, and then we could all go about our business and enjoy it. And that's what I got. I got some, really happy, creative, involved people who want the best for the play.
Do you find that you stuck to your guns in the realm of it moving forward? As you say, you don't like to hang on anything. Stephen Dietz calls it, which I'm not sure if you listened to that episode yet or not, he calls it motion, to where every scene, everything is moving forward into the next scene. It's all related rather than stagnancy, I suppose.
I feel like, I want it to be on a train. I want us to be on a train. We have a couple of stops along the way, but it's fast. I don't like to, I like motion. I like movement. I like, tension and darkness and laugh out loud, hold your stomach laughs. Tracy Letts, my idol. I'm crazy about him. And I must have seen August Osage, 8 times on Broadway. With a different cast every time. But what to me was so fascinating about that was that, you don't know whether it's written so well that the actors, no matter how often they change the actors, it goes like gangbusters. So sometimes you go to a play and especially some of our old favorites, and you've seen a different cast through the years, and it doesn't hold up. It's so... is it the writing? Is it the casting? Is it the directing? Is it what is it? But anyway, I think Tracy almost makes it, especially that production, bulletproof.
What happened when you got those first 25 pages done? What was the next step? Where did it go from there? How many pages is it now?
90.
Okay. All right. So you get your first 25, you get your feedback, you get your validation.
Yeah.
So what happens after that?
I finished. I finished it.
Was it still collaborative after that point? You got the 25 in. Were you still meeting with those three actors?
No.
Okay. And you just kind of finished it on your own. Did you bring them back in?
No.
You just finished it and...
I said, look, I'm sure people have told you this in the past, but we're doing this. I want the two of you. I'm not going to... And I want the three of you, because we got Jorge a little bit later. I said, I want the three of you. I'm not going to ask anybody else. I'm not going to double cast it. If one of you gets a job and we can't do the performance, we won't do the performance. It's fine.
What were the steps? What steps did you take, or what was the process after that? So you get the 25 pages. You've got a basis. You've got the validation. You know you've got something, and you go finish it. How did you? Did you just do that for that? You finished those 65 pages, and then did you go back? Did you do rewrites? Did you bring the actors in to hear it and make adjustments from there, or just like, all right, I've got it, guys, let's go. Here we go. First rehearsals on Monday.
That's right. That's what I did. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's what I did. I've shared the pages. Every time I do about 10, 20 pages, of course, I'd share it with my husband. And he'd give me some feedback. But basically, he'd just say, keep going. It's great. Go, go, go. And then I would send it to two other friends of mine who I really trusted. And, they pushed me forward. And, then I just said, let's pick some dates. Let's go. I hired theater planners. I don't know whether you have ever, the owner of Theater Planners owns the theater, Theater 68.
Which they just came into possession of within this last year, because I know it was vacant for the longest time. It's one of the few spaces that's actually survived.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. They've redone it and refurbished it. It's so nice. So I hired them to be a producer to guide me, because I don't have a Rolodex full of people to call for, who does sets, who does small theater in LA. I did go and look at a couple of theaters that I had never seen, but I've seen a lot of small theaters, and I don't know, it just didn't. This one here on Lankershim did it for me. So
yeah, it made me, because somehow I get their email, and I've wanted to go in. I've had some exchanges with them, which is a total side note that has really nothing to do with this. So I'm inspired, because I need to get back to producing and directing as well. So you still wound up getting feedback on these. Did you make changes, passing it over to your husband, passing it over to friends, or are you just like, they just said, yeah, it's good, go for it, leave it as is, there's nothing to change, spot on?
They would ask me, really thoughtful questions. No critiquing, just thoughtful questions that would make me more thoughtful.
But nothing that made you think that, okay, well, if they're asking these questions, I need to go back and maybe tweak a thing or two.
Well, I did. I would go back and tweak. Okay. I would go back and, punch up some jokes. And my husband's a great jokester, and, he had a couple of things to say here and there, punch up some jokes. And, but, I knew how it was going to end. So it was just about getting there.
Were you resistant to any questions they were asking?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know that sometimes, our egos get in our way, and it's like, we kind of get defensive, or we get on,
I think I went through that phase. I don't go through it anymore.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just age. Just being in the world and what good does it do to get defensive? Hear it and take it or throw it away.
What part of the industry do you feel has helped you the most in your writing?
Well, definitely acting, because I love to, write back and forth, write characters back and forth. I love to be a character, and then I'll get to be the other character, and then the other one. And so, I never, I never get bored with myself.
You're going to have to teach me a thing or two, because I'm bored with myself all the time. What does character mean to you, and how do you approach it when it comes to playwriting?
Well, we all love the flawed hero. I do anyway. But the realness of that person and how they maneuver through their life and how they got to where they are today and why they're at this particular place in this moment in time. And, I do like characters with sense of humor, whether it's dry or sarcastic or just witty or goofy. And I want to see the broken part of them.
How do you portray or express flaws on the page? And then how do you project that brokenness in your writing? How do writers do that? This is one of those on the spot things where it's just like, I'm not in front of my computer. I don't know, because somebody told me that when it comes to playwriting, you have two things: you have character and you have dialogue. That's kind of really, really it. Mm-hmm. So, it's not like we can cut to a close up of something, or an insert, or some little piece of backstory or there's some newspaper article. How do you do it on stage and in your writing?
Well, behavior is a big thing for me.
Keep going. Expand on that. How do you write behavior?
I have a lot of stage directions.
Okay, so I want to. Okay, now we'll unpack that in a second. Keep going. I want to hear this first. You may not. You may know where I'm going, but let's hear about it.
I think when we're talking to each other, we reveal things that we're not even aware that we said, or that reveals a sadness or a darkness or something that they want or need. Maybe even the person that you're talking to doesn't even respond to that, but they saw it. They saw what you said. They heard it, but then they may not want to deal with you or that situation because it's too hard for them to deal with your crap. So I try to put those moments in the dialogue kind of offhandedly almost. I don't hit anything over the head. I try not to, because I don't like to witness that in a play. I just want it to be, I think the audience, some audience members will get certain things and some won't see it, but it'll be there. And especially if I've directed them correctly in the behavior, it goes along with what they're saying.
What do you include in the stage directions, especially when it comes to behavior? Well,
it's funny because I thought, what what do you get to say? Because I know there's so many playwrights that don't include anything.
Sure.
Or there's playwrights that say, you must do it this way. And, they tell us as actors what to do. And a lot of actors say, well, I don't ever read those. Or I don't, recently one of the actors said to me, I'm going to do this right here. How do you think that'll work? I said, well, did you read the stage direction? Because that's what I told you to do.
At least it was the right thing.
Yeah. So, I found myself, you got 3 walls. It's not a big stage. You got to keep it moving. I don't like people talking heads. This is just my experience of when I'm watching a play. I like movement. I like dancing. I like singing. I like busting out, drinking, smoking dope, doing, things that people do.
And what do you like to do on stage?
Very good, James.
So I have a question then, because in my experience on soap operas, I have some experience.
What soap did you go?
General Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Which
one of the good ones.
One of the ones that still exist.
Yes.
Well, because we got, I say we, like I was, I worked enough.
Okay. Who'd you play?
Oliver. So
Oliver. Okay.
All over. I'll take Oliver. Oliver. So I started off as one of Faith's thugs, just background, and then once Faith got written off, it went into I got a break, and then I started getting called in for other things, just a little background, and then finally started getting some lines here and there.
So it was your hair.
It might have been. I think I played a locksmith.
He has great hair, everybody.
Hopefully they're watching this episode, not just. Which I don't know if I told. Well, because you're listening. I don't know if I told you that we record this. That's hence the cameras. You should probably already know that. So I went from I think I did a locksmith, and then eventually I went to a police officer and got to arrest Edward Quartermain and Kelly as well.
Okay.
And then eventually I went to a reporter, and then, but we got Frank Valentini. Oh. Because he moved to One Life to Live after.
Oh, he was a very good producer.
He ran a tight ship because when he first came, people were like, it was a tense set.
Yeah.
So where I was going with that.
But he made hits. I mean, he
and he still is. I think if you take Frank and Mark Teschner, the cast who's won. Yes. He's like the Susan Lucci. Well, no, wait, because she always was nominated, but she never won until like eventually the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like
it 15th year,
something like that.
Yeah.
But Mark Teschner, I think, he's won every year. I don't think he's lost once. So it's a great combination between those two. But Frank's good. In my experience, though, on soap operas, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no stage direction. Am I wrong?
Oh, I don't think so. I think you're right.
So, how do you...
What was I thinking? Listen, hey, I was already blocking the show as I was writing it. I was saying, so-and-so crosses to the kitchen and eats some M&Ms, something like that. Just because I knew where everyone was going to be, sure. I could visualize it. So I just kind of did that for myself. But
sure.
We ended up using almost all of it.
Well, I think that because knowing that you're going to be directing as well.
Yeah.
You can kind of like envision that. And then I'll go to this question. I'm going to put you on the spot totally. So, do you find, and maybe you wouldn't do this because in the future you wouldn't be directing, or maybe you would be. Do you think that putting all those stage directions becomes directing on the page, and opposed to letting your actors, and if it were a different director doing their work?
I think it's it's a newbie, an elementary thing for me because I'm a newbie.
Sure, okay.
So I mean, I didn't put they break down and cry,
right?
But I did. I needed to, see it. So I needed. It was almost like I needed to remind myself. Okay, so they're here. He's going to go over here, and this is going to happen, and blah blah blah. And I'm big, and maybe this is another newbie kind of thing, but I'm huge on props. So I like to see a prop travel, throughout a stage production. And we have several props that travel. And that's fun for me.
Is that does that come from a place of symbolism, or is it foreshadowing? I mean, do those props represent something?
A couple of them do, and a couple of them are just fun.
I'll give the Chekhov adage: if a gun's shown in the first act, it better go off in the third. All right, good.
Absolutely.
All right, good, great.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's not a traveling prop. Wait, what was the symbolism behind that? Oh, great.
Yeah.
Were there any stage directions that you wrote when you start getting things on their feet that you realized this isn't working? Let's scratch that, or did you have pushback from any of the actors? And I got a different idea. Can I try this? Was it still a collaborative process once you guys started rehearsing? We know each other so well. I mean, I told him in the beginning, look,
I am the director for this particular project, but I had worked with all of them as actors, so I knew what they did. They knew what I did. I just happened to be the director for this one. When we're acting in a scene study class, we're not supposed to direct each other. We're just supposed to act with each other. So we're trained not to direct. We direct ourselves and react to the other character. But in this situation, somebody's got to drive the train. So I trusted them. I mean, I understand now even more why there are so many directors who use the same actors over and over again, because they trust them. I'm just using the people that I had been working with for a year in my class. And so they, we have a thing, and I can speak shorthand to them, but I'm rigid in a good way on everything, because I like to explore and carve out those moments. I don't want a moment to go by that we have not discussed, choreographed, played with, cut. I find that now that I'm, rewriting little things, that I'm throwing out all the stage direction. So, because it's a confidence thing, I think, for me.
Sure. This is probably rhetorical. I would imagine that there is a sense of trust with this group as well. Would you say that you've written this for them?
I find that I have now. Yeah.
Not the piece itself, but the characters you're writing for these actors.
Absolutely. I have infused what I know of them and who they are, and I've encouraged them to bring in their own personality into the character, because that just, they're killing it.
I'm assuming that you're allowing them to discover certain moments as well.
Yes.
Are they discovering things that you didn't realize that were there?
Absolutely.
And I'm assuming that you're open to those. Have you implemented any of those things into the script?
Oh yeah. I'm not. I may take credit for it, but I'm not. Oh no! As long as it pushes the story forward and I like it, let's use it.
How long have you been rehearsing? What's the rehearsal process been? When did it start, and how long has it been going?
I think we had a 5-week rehearsal, and we're on, starting Friday, we're on our 4th week.
Okay.
Yeah. We're getting there because we're opening February 25th.
5 days a week rehearsal?
Yeah.
How many hours a night?
We're about 5.
Oh, okay. In the space?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I made a deal with the theater and asked them I wanted to be in the space.
Sure. No, 100%. I think, and maybe nowadays things are a little different still. It's like most of the productions I did, every space pretty much had acting classes Monday through Thursday.
Absolutely.
And it was almost impossible to actually rehearse in the space. And you hopefully got some time the week you opened.
Awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
So hard. I mean, that's just so hard to do. So what we've been doing is, starting at maybe 1 or 2 and going until 6:30, and then there's a class in there at 7. But now I've got the theater for 2 weeks because they're building. So we're going to be able to try to work in there too.
How elaborate were you in your description of your set as far as the writing goes? Like, what were you just kind of like general and this is what it is, or did you get down to specifics, or just let the designers like, here's a general blueprint and run with it, let me see what you've got?
Yeah, I described it as a loft in Soho, but I wanted a balcony, and I wanted bookshelves and a kitchen and a writing area, and I got a lot of pictures of lofts that I wanted to use elements, and gave them shared them with the set designer, and he and I have very similar taste, and so he came up with a beautiful rendering, and it's a great set, big for the space,
Did you get everything you asked for?
I did.
Fair enough. And then as far as there's one other aspect I wanted to ask about in that regard, and maybe it was just set.
That was fun to do that. I was there today, and they were just building it out, so it was great to watch it, come alive.
Do you think that this piece could be just as successful if the set was simplistic?
No.
Why is that?
I'm not big on simplistic. I want to, I guess I want to go in to a theater and be transported. Oh, okay, this is where we are. Great, I'm in. That's what I want the audience to do, because that's what I love to do. When you go into, when you go into Hamilton, I mean, you're gonna get a show with that set, or the Geffen always, I don't know how many millions of dollars they spend on their sets, but those are some good sets.
So basically you want to forget that you're in a theater.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I do. I'm not, a couple of boxes here and there with a hanging lamp.
Sure.
I'm just not.
What have you learned about playwriting going through this process? Anything that's kind of been a epiphanal moment or anything like that? Whether that's from your past, like, oh, I that never clicked before. Not that it has. I mean, you've got, a lot of experience under your belt. So, but I'm just curious if, like, delving into this aspect and, playwriting, full-length play, if there's like, oh, okay, wow, I never really caught that before. Mm-hmm. Any pleasant surprises, I suppose?
There have been a lot, James. There really have. I guess I realize now how much I didn't know, and now I can learn more about playwriting.
Expand on that. So much that you didn't know, like in what aspect?
Well, I just related to being an actor and thinking, I was an okay actor, but then I went to acting class and I read more plays and learned about theater, and I got to be a better actor. So now that I've done this with this play, written it, I'm sure, it's not, it wasn't brain surgery. It was, I just followed my instincts, and I think they happened to be good in this particular situation. But I know that, if I want to do a 4-person play, I want to learn more about writing a play, and what are the guideposts that playwrights use. I mean, I've read, but I don't know.
I'm right behind you in that regard, because and that's hence the reason with the podcast, because I don't know how much I can glean from reading these books, mm-hmm. whether it's Save the Cat as far as screenwriting goes, or yes. the Playwright's guidebook, and just like sure, that makes sense, but how do you apply that in a practical aspect?
But I think, you being a producer, you've done that section of it, and I think, and an actor, and have you directed?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're doing it.
Sure, but I think it's like when it comes to writing, I think there's certain things we forget about. I mean, even going through and writing or reading, and that's what I was going to say. What did you? Are there things that you that you pulled, that when you read plays that you definitely pulled from? Like, oh, I when I read plays, I learned this, and this, because I can tell you that when I was reading plays, I didn't learn anything because I didn't know what to look for. Well,
true. I guess I knew what I liked.
Sure,
but I didn't know how to label it. Mm-hmm. And, in some of your podcasts, which I've learned a lot from, I hear the writer say a word or an exercise that they do, or the way to get to a plot that I just don't understand yet. So I plan on doing that.
Sure.
And see where that takes me.
What surprised you? What that clicked in this, or that you didn't know? How much you did? You said how much you didn't know. Was there any that one thing, as far as the playwriting mm-hmm. perspective goes?
I think I found out that I'm a good director.
Okay. All right. How has that helped you in your playwriting? Or did you find that writing your play made you even a better director?
Maybe that's the way it went. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe, forgive me if I did ask this already, do you find, out of all those things that you've done in the industry, that there's one particular thing? You said acting was the one that helped you write, helped you be a better playwright, or is there one?
I think so, because I've been around, some good sets, and love to watch and see who's doing what and how they behave and how they express themselves and how they send information to each other. And that's been very helpful to be on sets like that. You know, the best sets are the ones where positivity is just all around you, and you have a great exchange of information.
Have you had any conflicts off stage or during the rehearsal process that aren't part of the play, or is everybody just on the ball and everybody's in agreement and everybody's just...
Everybody is, they're so great.
Do you have plans with this? So you run for 4 weeks?
6.
Okay. You run for 6 weeks, and then what?
I don't know. What do you do after that? You know, I guess if somebody comes up and says, "Oh, okay, you want to take it to New York?"
Would you submit it? Would you consider submitting it to other playhouses or other theater companies or anything like that to just see?
You know, I don't even know what that process is, James.
There's this podcast called Playwright Spotlight.
Well, yes, but but I don't know, and I'm learning that from Playwright Spotlight. Sure. But you know, I guess I've been so wrapped up in this that I haven't even thought beyond it.
And it's somewhat of an unfair question because, you know, you got to get through this whole process. But yeah. I'm not sure, you know, when it comes to playwriting and whatnot, I think we kind of, well, I don't know, because not everybody writes a play with or maybe they do. Maybe they all sit down with the intention to sit back and produce and direct it. And they don't think about the thing. But I would imagine that most kind of like, all right, I know once this is done, they kind of have a game plan in their head. Mm-hmm. But, you know.
I've got to do that. I got to have a game plan. I mean, I'd love it to live somewhere else. I'd love to.
So you're not intimidated by that. You're like, you're open to like maybe taking the next step and seeing where it goes and going for publication.
I don't know enough to be intimidated. I don't know. I know.
I don't know anything, and I'm intimidated about a lot of things.
This way just kind of works for me. And, you know, I think it could work for many other people than they think they know, that they have to do it this certain way. And I think I've learned that you don't really have to. Mm. I just knew I needed to do it.
Sure.
And that pushed me through. And whatever comes to me after this, if it's with this play, you know, big icing on the cake.
I use the term lovingly, beginning playwright. As a beginning playwright, do you feel that part of the success that you're experiencing right now is just surrounding yourself with the right people?
I do. Yeah, people that know what they're doing.
Right.
You know, I know certain things, but I know I don't know all of those things. As long as I got hired people that after I interviewed them, I felt that we had a good connection, that they would, you know, be the person to do the job. You know, I knew I got great people.
Does that come from a place of humility? Being willing to surround yourself, knowing that you may not know everything, and just kind of laying yourself at others' feet for them to guide you?
Oh, I'm up for that. Yeah. Yeah. I love, you know, I love having smart people. And I say this not to demean myself, but smarter than I am about definitely certain things that I know nothing about, but I need them. And I want to, you know, I just want to enjoy the process, and they can teach me things that I can carry on.
No, normally I would say, where can people find your work? Well, the basic is, will you be working on anything else after this? Is like the writing bug, you know, under your skin now, and so you have this itch that do you have plans for another? What are you working on next after? Well, I can't say next because you're in the throes of directing this piece that's going to be, and I'm sure, are you going to be there every night?
Absolutely. I'm not giving it over to anybody.
Good for you. Okay, well let me ask you this then. Once you open, will you continue giving notes?
Yes.
Even up to the final weekend?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? They will love it. Because they're like, we're all very similar. We just want to make it great.
Sure.
We just want to make it better the next night. And I mean, maybe I won't, but I feel like, we can always tweak it, it a little more and a little more. And
sure. So I guess I'm wondering, will you still be allowing for discovery, for them to play still and discover new moments and connections or things that, may not in 5 weeks of rehearsal reared themselves?
I think so, don't you?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would hope so, but...
Oh, yeah. Nothing is in cement for me.
Okay,
I mean,
good.
I like it to, flow like water. I want it to just, I want it to change every night.
Sure. So will you sit down and will you write it? Will you write another play after this? Is that there? Are you?
I hope so. Yeah.
What is it about a 4-person play that intimidates you, if that's what it is? Because you said I'd like to do a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I started out with 1 in the monologue.
Sure.
Then I did The Worst Day films, which were 2 people. Now I'm on 3, so I figure my normal thing would be to go to 4 or 5. So
Or a cast of 8.
a cast of 8.
You should do a staging of 8 is enough. The play, the musical.
Okay.
Will you do something like put this on New Play Exchange, at least without, if you find that people just see about getting it out there to see if it might garner some attention in other places?
Oh, yeah.
All right. And I'm happy to help you with that if you need it.
Oh, great. Yes. I'd love it.
Even though I'm not really well versed in New Play Exchange, but I know it's a great resource for people to get discovered and other playwrights to read your stuff. So
okay, good. I've got to get better at final draft.
Don't even get me. Are you using the screenwriting aspect or the playwriting aspect of final draft?
I don't know.
That's okay, because there is it's a very similar format, but don't even get me started. It's been a joke, not even a joke. It's been, I'm sure you've read plenty of plays, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you know how they're printed up.
Right.
That's not the format that they're written in.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And it drives me nuts.
Yes, yes.
It kills me. I'm like, why do you print them this way? You request, this is how it should be submitted, and then you turn around and you print it
differently.
How dare you?
I can't stand that.
No, neither do I, because again, like for the beginning playwright, think, oh, I'm going to write a play, and then they format it like that, and then they send it in like this is incorrect.
Yeah.
You did it wrong.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm so glad that I have a problem with final draft.
We all do. I don't know if we all. I do. Okay. I definitely have one. My turn to clear the throat.
Definitely got to get better at that.
In due time, one thing at a time. You have much bigger fish to fry.
Okay.
I wish you a very successful opening night and run.
Oh, James, that's so nice of you. I hope you'll come.
I would love to.
I will leave you a ticket for 2, 3 at 4 at the box office.
I will definitely be there. I promise you that.
It's right down the street.
I can walk there. Okay. And sometimes I do. Brynn Thayer.
James.
Thank you for coming on to this episode of Playwright Spotlight.
I had so much fun.
Thanks for coming in and taking the chance. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Playwright Spotlight. Again, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, share this video with a friend who might be able to use some playwriting advice. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe to the channel. And in the meantime, and until we see each other again, keep writing.